Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. Now that we have had a little bit of time to play with the new Audiopocalypse, the Festival of Legends miniset cards, the Festival of Legends miniset actually proved to be pretty strong, and there are lots of cards that are seeing play in current meta decks. But it also got me wondering, which minisets would I buy right now if I didn't, for example, have any of them? Or if I just had some minisets, then what other minisets should I prioritize? What would be the best miniset to buy? So that's what we're setting out to find out in this video. I'm going to take a look at the recent minisets and see which ones of them are worth buying and why. One thing I noticed while looking into minisets was that typically the cards that are used in standard format and the cards that are used in wild format are completely different. I mean, cards that are playable in wild typically are not even playable in standard, because in wild there are so many other potential synergies, and only the cards that make best use of all of those wide synergies are able to see play. With that said, let's also keep that in mind and dive right in. First we have Audiopocalypse, the Festival of Legends miniset. And oh boy, has this miniset has surprisingly many playable cards, like Jam Session, Reviving Warrior, Horn of the Windlord, the Doomhammer for Paladins. It could also be Doomhammer for Shamans, but Shamans don't really have ways to buff it right now, so it's actually much better in Paladin. Hallowhound, great work in both Hunter and in That Knight. Then Star Power, True Felon Flames, Reviving Spellhunter as a combo deck, Backstage Bouncer. Even stuff like Remix Tuning Fork, Remix Totem Cover, the Abyssal Bassist, Magatha, Bane of Music, a card that I expect will see a lot of play in standard. Whenever you are able to play a minion-based deck, there's no reason not to put Magatha into that deck. And then on the wild side, actually the most popular card from Festival of Legends miniset is Funnel Cake, which is doing some nasty combo-ish stuff there. Also Costumed Singer, at the end of the turn draw a secret, more secret support, because in wild, Secret Mage obviously is a thing, and secret support therefore is much stronger there than it is on standard. So overall, Festival of Legends miniset Audiopocalypse, the latest miniset, is actually pretty strong, and definitely something that I do recommend buying if you haven't bought that one yet. However, the previous miniset, the March of the Lich King miniset, returned to Naxxramas, Nax Out. Nax Out really means something, because Return to Naxxramas is phenomenal. For example, in standard format, we're seeing a lot of play with the Curator, which is a legendary card, Faithful Companions, Trinket Trackers, Mistake. Mistake is also something that's pretty nasty to craft, because Mistake is an epic card. You don't really want to spend your dust on epic cards, so another great reason to buy March of the Lich King miniset, Return to Naxxramas. Then we have Rotting Necromancers, we have Fellscale Evoker. And when taking wild into account, we have cards like Mindseer and Cannibalize, which see play in both standard and wild formats. And in wild, March of the Lich King miniset has some bit of different cards that are seeing a lot of play. Stuff like Rake, which obviously also was strong in Druid before the rotation. And then we have Goldwing, we have Code Storage for Shadowwalk, we have Jolly Roger, some aggressive rogue action. Overall, March of the Lich King miniset just really strong, and also quite flavorful. Because the neutral legendary cards from March of the Lich King miniset, Rivendare Warrider and Thaddeus Monstrosity, both see quite a lot of play, even though they're not necessarily very good. Rivendare Warrider obviously has some combo-ish properties, especially on the wild side. Thaddeus, there's the Thaddeus Warlock in standard, which is not great, but people seem to enjoy playing it a lot. And these are legendary cards, so they're worth a lot of dust, which makes Return to Naxxramas an excellent investment if you're looking for a miniset to buy. The Castle Nathria miniset, Maw and Disorder, is a little bit weaker, but it's not completely hopeless. It was the Paladin miniset, with Class Action Lawyer, Order in the Court still seeing a lot of play in standard. Paladin doesn't use the Jailer that much nowadays, but Jailer was also one of those cards that really brought Paladin back with that miniset. We have Totemic Evidence for Totem Shaman, we have All Fell Breaks Loose for Big Demon Hunter, so some key cards are part of Castle Nathria miniset. Obviously, as they are being common cards, they are all easy to craft as well. Sylvanas the Accused sees some play in standard and also a little bit of play in wild. Although the main contributions from Maw and Disorder to the wild side are the Secret Mage cards, Objection and Contract Conjurer, as well as Due Process for Druid. It is a miniset with a fair number of playable cards, although there are no playable epics here, and the legendary cards are not very important. They're not as flavorful as ones from much of the Lich King miniset, and they're not as strong as Magatha. Compared to the three most recent minisets, the Voyage the Sunken City miniset Throne of the Tides is clearly weaker. In standard format, it's basically just Light Ray, Ancient Krakenbane, and Neptulan the Tidehunter. And when we add Wild, well, that only gives us like Clownfish. Obviously, the commons and rares are quite easy to craft as well, you don't really have to buy a miniset for that. Neptulan the Tidehunter is like the main draw of Voyage the Sunken City, but it's clearly weaker than the three more recent minisets. Those four minisets are all the minisets that are currently available in the standard format, and once miniset rotates out into Wild, the evaluation changes a little bit because the barrier to entry for those cards to really become meta cards in the Wild format is just so much higher. Some of the cards will still make it, but there are not that many cards from the old minisets. So we're mainly looking at, okay, are there like playable legendary cards that would somehow justify buying them? And maybe like Fortune the Baron's miniset, the Wailing Caverns, it does have one really meta legendary card, which is Mutanus the Devourer. When we look at Onyxia's Lair, the Fractured in Alterac Valley miniset, well, it has Kasaguzan and it has Raid Boss Onyxia, but both of those are kind of slow for Wild. And they don't even really contribute any other cards for Wild format, not even ones of lower rarities. Even the strongest miniset of its time, Deadmines, the United in Stormwind miniset, is a little bit lackluster sometimes when you think about it in Wild, especially after all the nerfs it has gone through. Sure, it still has cards that are played in Wild, only the Guidance, Brilliant Macaw, Defias Leper are the most played cards, but that's two commons and a rare. Then we have Mr. Smite that still sees some play even after nerf. And then we have a lot of cards. United in Stormwind miniset basically was all-star miniset. Almost all the cards saw play in the standard format, but now that it's only available in Wild, its status is a little bit lower. Because even cards like Edwin, Defias Kingpin and Doggy Biscuit that were really staples in standard are not quite as staples in Wild. So where does that leave us overall? I would prioritize buying minisets that are still available in the standard format, because then typically they are able to contribute many more cards than minisets that are only available in Wild. And when you look at their contributions in standard, also taking into account the contributions in Wild, and look at what rarities the useful cards are, like legendaries are obviously much more expensive, so it's almost worth buying a miniset just to get a legendary card, then Return to Naxxramas. Return to Naxxramas is just freakishly strong. It's the best miniset you can buy right now, followed by Audiopocalypse. Audiopocalypse is actually not doing bad, and with Magatha in it, it's going to see play for a long time. The third best miniset to buy would be More and Disorder from Castle Nathria, and then I guess the fourth one could be Throne of the Tides, just because it's still available in standard and it does have Neptulan, even though it's not a very strong miniset. And then followed by the best minisets that are only available in Wild now, Deadmines, because it just gives you so many cards that you can play, although not that much in Wild, but still, and Wailing Caverns for Mutanus. So if I didn't have any of the minisets right now and I was going to start buying them, then this would be the order that I would buy the minisets, and the last couple of ones, they don't have any useful legendary ones, so they're just pretty much useless. I don't think they're even worth buying at the moment because they're only available in the Wild format. Thank you for watching. Click like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and a special thanks to all of my Patreon supporters, YouTube members and Twitch subscribers who make all of these videos possible.